I'd like you to all think about time, or times past, and the times that you most remember, the times that are coming into your head right now, into your heart. What times had a big effect on you?
When I was 4, I was carried out of a house that was on fire, and I've never forgotten it. And I'm petrified of fire. I remember waking up. I was in bed in the house on my own. Your parents used to put you to bed and then go and talk with the next door neighbour. This would be about 1925. 2LO had just started. I remember waking up and looking up and seeing flames reflecting from the front bedroom onto my ceiling. And I put my head back under the clothes because I was frightened. And then a neighbour coming back from the pub saw the flames, burst the door down, carried me downstairs. But I can still be there if I shut my eyes.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that with us. Tell me about times past, Bet, and any times that affected you.
Oh, I was in Ireland, up in the hills, I think. Only heavy thunderstorms, I used to be frightened.
Tell me about that.
And burglars knocking on the door.
And how old were you?
About 19, 20 maybe. I can't remember anyway.
Tell me what you can remember. Who was there in your life, where you were, and tell me about the people in the village in Ireland.
Oh, they were very nice, friendly, very good-natured. Everybody was welcome into their home.
Is there anything you miss about those times?
I had a good time, a good life. Very good. I miss it all, really. I have to put up with it now. Never mind.
When I was quite young, I used to go to Cheddar with my dad. We used to walk around the shops and everything, and it was really nice.
How old were you when you went to Cheddar?
Oh, about 9, I think.
What did Cheddar look like when you were 9?
Oh, like with big shops and cream teas and things like that.
Lovely. Thank you, Sandra. Joan, something in your life that you're thinking back on that had a big effect?
My mother died when I was at age 11, and my two brothers was in the Army, Air Force. So I really had nobody, you know. So I went to live with my friend, Pam. And we were like sisters, so that's always been my big memory, you know. And my friend had, she had no roof to her mouth, so she used to talk through her nose. And the kids that used to make fun of her was terrible. And I'd more or less be there to stick up for her, you know, so we were like sisters. Mm-hmm.
How often in present times do you think of your mum?
Well, I think of her a lot, yeah, I really do, yeah. And I always remember, she was only about 5 foot, she wasn't very big. And she was a lovely mum. Yeah.
What's your mum's name?
Nellie Fisher, her name was. But there you are, it happens, doesn't it? So.
I suppose really in many ways. I was born on a large private estate in South Devon. My father Don't imagine I was born in a big house, for God's sake. Dad was the head gardener, but of course that was back in the early 20s. So head gardeners in those days were something, in a way. And I was a lucky child, because Dad had come out of the war having been blown up, and his memory was not good, and he travelled around on 2 sticks. And I suppose really my very earliest memories is just being Daddy's shadow. That's what everybody called me, because I just wandered around with Daddy. And my grandfather living with us had already taught me to tell the time. So when Dad went out in the morning, he had a label on his coat which told him what he intended to oversee during the day and what time he was due to go down to the big house. And of course you went to the big house at the time you were supposed to go to the big house. And that was one of my very earliest memories, always being there to look at Daddy's watch and make sure Daddy went off.
In 1932, I was pregnant and I had a baby, but it was stillborn. 2 years afterwards, I had another one, which was all right, I've got now. And I shall never forget that baby. When I saw it for the first time, it was lovely. Yeah, I was so thankful.
What's your baby's name?
Alan. Alan.
Tell me about Alan.
He's lovely and he's done very, very well. He went to Southampton University, which I was very proud of. It was lovely.
May I ask, do you think of your stillborn?
Every time it's his birthday, Christmas, I never forget him. Not so much in the year, but always on his birthdays and Christmas time. Yeah.
Did you name him?
Philip. And now I got Alan. And he's wonderful. I think he is anyway.
I think being married is a turning point in your life, because suddenly you're not thinking about yourself. You've got to think about someone else as well. When I met Audrey, I was 17, she was 16. And we knew after about a week we wanted to get married. And so we told our parents we wanted to get married. Well, that was taboo. My wife's parents were dead against it. So we carried on courting and we decided we'd elope and get married in Gretna. The cost of our marriage, it was, well, we thought it was rather dear. It was 7 and 6 for the solicitor. The one thing about the marriage, which was getting married in Gretna, we went to Carlisle on the bus, went to Her Majesty's Theatre, because they had a very nice cafe there. They made very good coffee. I do remember that. And we had sardines on toast. And 70 years later, my wife was a semi-invalid. I was looking after her. And I gave her for her breakfast sardines on toast. Which I thought was the climax.
I lived in Leeds. I worked in a tailoring shop, and my husband now, but he were only like what we called a belt lad, and he used to come round and see if your machine was all right and that. And one day I got my finger right through the needle, and it right through, and I passed out. Anyhow, evidently my husband Eddie, he picked me up, and after that I started dating him. And
did he propose to you?
oh, I expect so. I've forgotten that.
Of course. Bessie. Thank you so much.
When I was a child and going to school, I used to go Spanish Town Junior Secondary School. And I was a naughty girl. I loved to fight. Sometimes you remember all those old time rude things what you used to do, you know? You bring back sometimes memories. Sometimes I sit down by myself and I remember some long time story. And it's again, my husband, first husband before I leave him, you know what I done him one night? I put on a white sheet, wrap up into a white sheet, because he used to beat me up. He used to slap my backside hard, I'm telling the truth. And because I'm very naughty. And I put on a white sheet and wrap up right, because the place, Jamaica is so dark, some place, and wrap up right at the gate. And when he come in, I jump out on him. And he run, start cuss bad word and run and fall along. And I say, you bitch, you.
Well done, princess. Well done, you. Well done. Good girl.
Princess. Thank you. Yeah, I was very naughty when I was little bit. Very, very naughty.
I don't remember much about my childhood because I had an awful childhood.
Where did you grow up?
Where didn't I grow up? I was actually born at home in Southmead. Moved to so many different places, had so many fathers, that I don't really remember things that happened then because they were terrible, they were bad. And I really don't want to go into them, if that's all right with you. But there's one thing, I've got a son, I must say I'm extremely proud of. He's achieved so much in his life. In fact, when the Olympic torch was being carried, my son was chosen to be a torchbearer for Bitten. And you know, that day, I'd never felt so proud in my life. In fact, I got a T-shirt made. My son is Olympic torchbearer. And that is the most proudest moment of my life, apart from giving birth to him. He's my inspiration. He keeps me going. You know, when I was ill not long ago, and I was very ill, and then he died, it's the thought of leaving my son behind that kept me going. Oh, I've got a husband, he's lovely. He's not my son, I absolutely adore my son. He's on a pedestal, and I'm sorry I can't get him off of that. He's a good kid.
Thank you, Jenny.
Okay.
Smiley Pam.
My speech is not very good, but since I lost my mum, I'm lost without her. And if I didn't come into places like this, I'll be lost. So that's what I got to say.
What's your mum's name?
Eve. But her real name is Morrison. Because I loved her, it is part of me. And that's what I got to say.
When did you first realise, how old were you when you first realised that you had the best mum in the world?
I can't really say nothing really, because it's too upsetting.
That's all right. It's okay. Do you want to say anything more? That's all right. Thank you, Pam. Thank you. Reg. What can you remember from when you were a boy, Reg? What can you remember?
Well, I suppose, I knew my parents anyway. I suppose getting used to that and older as you go along, like. That's what I reckon. You've got to get old, like.
Where did you grow up, Reg?
Speedwell. Yeah.
What was Speedwell like in those days?
Well, the war was on, wasn't it, at the time, so you didn't know what was going to happen, you know, if they was going to bomb it.
And what did you do after the war?
Well, it makes you think, doesn't it? Or as they say, love thine enemy. That's what they say to a lot of them. But I mean, I don't bother. No.
Just get on with it, don't you?
Can I ask you how old you are, Reg?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Brian's got I beat now. I'm about 80 odd, I think. Born May the 12th, 1932.
Thank you, Reg.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks for being here today. Really appreciate you being here. Thank you. Joan, tell me about your what growing up in Jamaica was like.
Well, when I was growing up in a place in Westmoreland near Maxfield, I used to, when I lost my mother, when I was 9-year-old, my aunt-in-law sent me to school. When we coming from school now, we used to run through the village with enough oranges. My orange walk, and my stepfather planted a lot of orange and grapefruit. And I finished up the schooling, and my father sent me to go and learn dressmaking. The first child I have in Clarendon, died now he would be 60 or 70 years of age. He grew up a rich man. And God, I don't know what's wrong, but I lose him. And I'm glad for where the Lord put me now, here. And here am I now. I'm sick with diabetic, and I'm glad for where the Lord put me down, and the Lord is working on me good now. Thank the Lord, and thank you all to come.
Thank you too, Joan.
I'm a Christian, child of God.
I lived originally in a place called Clutton. I can remember out by our front thing we had a big tin bath, and that was for us children to be, bathed in a tin bath to start with. And then, of course, I was the only boy because I had 2 sisters born after that, and all that stopped. And then I did a bit on the farm because I was interested in being in the open air, but I didn't do much other work because while my sisters were at school learning all about education, I was educating myself by going out in the field because I knew where certain animals came in, all that sort of thing, and I bunked off from school quite a lot because if I got fed up, I would just go. And I realise now that was the wrong thing to do. And I certainly today would say to anybody, get a good education, because without an education, you won't get anywhere. And that's what I regret, that I didn't get a real good education. And then later on in my life, I went into the Navy because there was not much going on in the village I lived. I joined the Navy and got a ship then, and it frightened me to death, because if you've ever been on the sea where all you can see is water, 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 and you're there on this thing which weighs lots of tons, and you're going up and down like that all the time, you think, God, what am I doing here? So that frightened me, but it did make me realise that there must be something looking after me, because although I was frightened, I didn't nothing happened to me, and I went through some horrendous times. But I do have a faith in something that obviously wants me to put all that stuff, all that horrible stuff that I had into some sort of practice. So I feel I'm not useless, I'm useful. And so I'm here today.
We are in the presence of the village elders. You are the elders. And it's a privilege to be here amongst you. I'd like you to think back to things that really spring to mind right now from your childhood. And so the stories that maybe you're about to share in the next few minutes, there's going to be some true wisdom and insight from you, because you are our elders.
When I was a child, my bedroom was the air raid shelter, because my mother was a teacher and she had to stay in London, and I had 2 orange boxes, a pillow and a stitched up eiderdown, and that was my bed in the Anderson shelter. And they would take turns, my mother, my grandmother and my auntie, to come to sit in the shelter early to put me to bed. And that was my bedroom for months and months. But now if I hear a sudden bang, I jump. But I survived it. Our house didn't, but I did. One time I was cycling home from school and there was nobody about at all. And I looked up in the sky and there was one aeroplane with a swastika on it. And it saw this little lone cyclist and machine gunned me. And they were all round me. I could hear the bullets landing. And I pedalled as hard as I could and got home. And my brother-in-law was there. And he scooped me up in his arms and soothed me until I stopped sobbing and shaking. I've never forgotten it. I came through it and, good. I'm here.
Wow, amazing. Thank you. Mabs.
Yes?
Mabel.
Well,
but we know you as Mabs.
I'm not a Bristolian. I was born in Cheshire, and I lived in Cheshire until 1949, when I met my husband on a climbing holiday in the Western Highlands of Scotland. And when my husband retired, my daughter said, "Why don't you come to Bristol, Mother, where I can keep an eye on you when you become geriatric?" I'm an arts and craft person. I make all sorts of things, always have done. I do beadwork, embroidery. My daughter-in-law in Leicester is the chief executive of the AIDS and HIV charity, and she sent me a pattern of a little badge that they wear, made of beads, and I took it to my class. My teacher showed me how to make them, and I've been making them ever since. I've got quite a few to go to Leicester when next time my son comes down.
I don't like the sound of my own voice, so I'm not going to say very much.
It's weird. None of us do, really.
I don't.
We
I
do.
hate my voice.
When
I always hated speaking out when in the classroom. They used to say, "Now it's your turn." I didn't know. I'd go hot and cold. One day they said, "Right, we're all going to speak a passage from the book, and when it gets to your turn, you have to speak." So I was all uptight, and I thought, it's my turn coming. And when I got to my part, one of the words was a blancmange, but I'd said blancmange. And everybody went in a fit, and I thought, that was better. And I think it was because my mum pronounced it blancmange, not blancmange, blancmange.
Well, the war had just started, see, so what with that? And my dad coming home and saying he'd been sent to Birmingham or Bristol. Well, we would have preferred Birmingham because my mother's 3 brothers lived in Birmingham, you see. And we'd have rather, but we came to Bristol. I'd never even heard of Bristol, let alone seen it.
Where were you brought up before Bristol?
In Leyland. When I came to Bristol, the only thing that kept me going was seeing the buses going along your main roads with Leyland written on the engine, see, where they were built. Because I'd stand there, I used to ride on the chassis of those, because we used to jump on the chassis. They were driving through Leyland, see. So we remember them, yeah. You could go in where I lived in Leyland, and it doesn't matter politically, it doesn't matter what you were, Labour, Conservative, whatever. They'd have a party and you'd all be welcome. Nothing was mentioned. But when we came to Bristol, the city council asked Fred and I what we were when we told them, "I'm sorry, we can't house you. We don't have strangers in this city." And I've never forgotten. I've told them about it since.
Thank you so much. Philomena.
I was born and bred on the Ordnance Estate in Pune. And that is arms and armaments. because Daddy was one of the backroom boffins. He's the Chief Inspector of Armaments that went through the Eastern Front, and we also had to deal with German infiltrators. Now, all this is the background to me growing up. And what I remember, something was very funny. We used to, when my brother was born, it must have been about 3 or 4, and we used to walk to the picture house, and walk back. And we had to come past the arsenal. There were always guards over there. There's a big bell and everything. And he used to say, friend of four. And my father, very naughty, always said friendly four. He insisted on saying friendly four. And my mother used to say, for God's sake, don't do that. And he'd say, pass. You know, because the guard really didn't know what he was saying. So that is one of my earliest and most amusing memories. I would have been 33 and a half when I came to England. So I'm born, bred and buttered in India.
I can't claim to be an artist because I don't live by it. You can only be an artist if you live by it. My father allowed me to draw in his Sunday school books. And I used to draw figures in pencil. And that's the first time I remember drawing. And I went to boys' schools, and boys' schools were all physics, chemistry, maths. Art and music was very limited. So I didn't really do it till I went to Bombay and had a famous teacher, Lady Temple, teach me how to draw, and gave me the confidence really to do it for my A-levels. And that's when I met Philomena.
And what were your feelings when you first set eyes on David, Philomena?
David's father was the vicar, and we both attended the same children's parties. My mother used to see him cycling down the road on a red bicycle, madly. He was a terrific cyclist he used to be. And she said, just look at that boy riding, because he was harum-scarum on his red bicycle. I sometimes worry if anything happened to one of us, then we would be lost. Because the past, as they say, is a different country, and they do things differently there. It's very true.
When you look at Philomena now, can you describe for me what love is?
It's part of you. It's not another existence. It's actually part of you, and that is what makes it real. That wherever she moves, that you are there as well, and wherever I move, she knows that I'm with her. It's a sort of a mystic union. It's not something you can explain away.